I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Wakal Kadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders in Great Millstone who rule well and teach well. Shalom to the brothers who's laboring this truth with integrity, honesty, and sincerity, and also the brothers and sisters who's listening in with them same attributes. I'm gonna get into this. We're gonna call today's lesson "You're Losing Your Purchasing Power." We're gonna go into a few videos. They're gonna give some explanation about the lesson. Then we're gonna get into some scriptures. All right. And I want to start off saying I do not own the copyrights of these videos. This is just for educational purposes. Let's get into it. That's not what I want. Let's go. Let's start with let's go
goods and
get
services. Basically, it's how much your money loses value over time. Many economists believe inflation.
Let's start that from the beginning. We're gonna jump around a little bit. Hopefully, it don't take too long to load.
In early 2021, the U.S. government rolled out another massive round of economic stimulus aimed at offsetting the damage done by the COVID-19 pandemic. But there's a potential side effect that some investors and economists fear could actually hurt the economy even more. Inflation. Inflation is the rise in the cost of goods and services. Basically, it's how much your money loses value over time. Many economists believe inflation isn't all bad. It typically goes hand in hand with economic growth. And too little.
So that's your purchasing power right there. So just for example, he's going to get into it, but if you have $1 and that dollar back then you'd be able to buy let's say 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you can buy a gallon of milk for about $2, or you can buy a Snickers bar. I like to use a Snickers bar. Snickers bar was average like 50 cents. Now you go into a store, because of inflation, and they'll tell you, the average inflation for the last 80 years, they'll say it's been about 3%, right? The average inflation. So let's just say it going up. So 20 years ago, a Snickers bar was about 50 cents. And nowadays, a Snickers bar is about $1.19, $1.25, right? Unless they put it on sale. So you can see inflation is the reason why, the cost of living is the reason why your dollar is no longer worth that dollar it was 20 years ago.
Inflation, known as disinflation, or falling inflation, called deflation, can be a sign of a struggling economy. But too much inflation too quickly, called hyperinflation, can lead to economic instability and market crashes. While many policymakers and economists think hyperinflation as a result of economic stimulus is unlikely, others aren't so sure. Understanding what causes inflation, how it's measured, and how the government manages it can help you take steps to prepare your portfolio. So what exactly causes inflation? The most common theory is based on supply and demand. Basically, the more money there is in the economy, the less it's worth, and vice versa. In order to stimulate economic recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic, the Federal Reserve and the federal government did things like cut interest rates and send checks to encourage spending, essentially creating money. You can see it in the M2, a calculation the Fed uses to track the money supply. It grew about 15.5 trillion to more than 19.6 trillion from February 2020 to February 2021. The degree of growth is unprecedented in the United States. Some worry that the more money the government floods into the economy, the less each dollar will be worth, starting a spiral towards hyperinflation. The closest the United States came to hyperinflation was during the Great Inflation from 1965 to 1982. During this time, there were 4 recessions, 2 energy shortages, and wage and price controls. Let
me give you a disclaimer. He's trying to sell a product. So there's going to be some, they trying to sell products, but just listen to the
price
information.
index, or CPI, which measures inflation by tracking the prices of common goods like food, housing, clothing, transportation, and more, hit a high at one point of nearly 15% year-over-year growth. The higher inflation...
So exactly like I was saying, So when we brought up the Snickers bar, that was the CPI index. Like you could track the inflation on the price of goods, right?
Translated to higher interest rates. Mortgage rates climbed to 18.63%, and the unemployment rate climbed to 9.7%. All these factors led to a stagnant stock market. The Dow Jones Industrial Average struggled to move above the 1,000 level for nearly 2 decades. So, should you be concerned about hyperinflation? Many economists and policymakers think the risk is low. In March 2021, Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell testified before Congress that deflationary pressure over the last 25 years should help offset the risk of inflation.
That's pseudo information. Again, he's trying to sell a product. The real people who know about what's going on, like especially us in the know, us elect, we know hyperinflation is very truly on its way. You know, they look right now, as you can see, they're pumping all this money into the system, into the people, right? And we know this money's not backed by anything. And they're gonna get into a little bit of that in the next video we watch. I'm gonna watch a little bit more of this. We're gonna go to the next one. But that's just he's again trying to sell a product. But we know that so I did a little finance before in the past. But again, he's trying to sell a product. And but we know what's going on. We're using our spiritual lenses, and we see what's really going on. They pumping in money into a system, right, that's not developing any products. You have less people working at manufacturers. You have less people going to work. More people just sitting at home doing nothing, right? And we know just in general, money's not backed by anything. It's not by gold or silver. So they just pumping just imaginary money, fiat money, right? Fiat money is money that is essentially, it's money that is what the government says is worth. Like they'll say, you know, that value is worth $100, worth this, but it's really not worth anything because it's not backed by anything. It's just what the government say is worth.
One deflationary pressure is productivity and efficiency gains from technology and globalization. Advances in computing, telecommunications, and networking have elevated productivity and kept labor costs low. And global free trade has let companies seek lower cost materials and labor abroad.
Well, we know the main prophecy is going to be right here in Babylon, which is America. And when he said something, the next video is going to get a little bit more into it. I'm going to get into it. But he said something. He said all this technology and all these things that's happening, but all these companies is outside of America. So, you know, the only thing that's giving America its strength is that they use the American dollar in all these countries. That's what's really, and I like the next video because it breaks it down more. You know, but that's what's only really giving us its strength is that the American dollar is being used in all these countries. But America's not developing in anything. They have no growth development here. The GDP is down, you know, like here, domestically, right? So globally though, because you count it when they getting cheap labor, right? Cheap labor for products. So they're able to, and then you can buy a lot of products with the US dollar, you know, because that US dollar can be used everywhere, right? But and
use just-in-time production systems to avoid the cost of storing inventory. As a result, employment has been relatively soft since the Great Recession and took a major hit from the pandemic.
You know what, we're going to get into the next video. He's going to get into selling in a product.
1922. Post-war Germany, under the rule of the newly formed
let it load up. Satan hating. And we're gonna jump around in this video.
Republic found itself under significant duress, struggling with the demands of onerous war reparations demanded from them by the victors of World
We're going to jump around this video. This is just showing you that companies
this,
that fell
combined with domestic stimulus efforts to rebuild a post-war nation, combined with hits to productive capacity like the French occupation of the nation's most powerful industrial centres, gave the government little option but to print more money in an attempt to get their economy working in any capacity. This reckless printing, combined with equally reckless borrowing and the reduction in productive capacity of the nation, saw the value of the German papier mark tank to the point where banknotes were better used as fuel to heat households rather than units of exchange. Hungary, 1945, a nation devastated by the fallout of the Second World War, over half of the nation's factories and businesses had been destroyed, massively reducing their potential to provide a stable standard of living to their people. The government had no choice but to direct more and more money through private banks to issue loans to businesses to rebuild from the ground up. Literally. This reckless money creation, combined with equally reckless borrowing and the reduction in the productive capacity of the nation, saw the value of the Hungarian pengo tank to the point where prices were doubling in the nation every 15 hours. Yugoslavia, 1992. The breakdown of the Soviet Union and an ongoing conflict in Croatia and Bosnia. Industrial capacity is reduced, and this slowdown of output is accelerated by a trade embargo placed on oil and a drop in productive capacity due to the devastation brought about by the global pandemic. If this set of circumstances sounds familiar, don't worry, because apparently it's all going to be different for the United States. And maybe
He's being sarcastic.
maybe the USA really is a special economy that is so large and influential that it doesn't play by the same rules as these historic cautionary tales. Or maybe not. But to know for sure, we as always need to look at a few important details. When does inflation actually start to become an unsolvable problem in the economy? Why do people think the USA is immune from the same consequences as all is a value? We do this all the time with different currencies, no problem at all. One American dollar is buying $1.31 Australian, 110 Japanese yen, and 85 euro cents. At a stretch, this exchange rate can also apply to other assets. One US dollar is buying 0.03 ounces of silver, 10 kilos of rice, or 1/60,000th of a Bitcoin. Of course, normally we express these exchange rates the other way around, but we can start to see that market value is almost always expressed as an equation of dollars to goods. So, let's take it back to the relationship between something that we are a bit more familiar with. Let's say the relationship between the exchange rate of American dollars and Australian dollars. As of making...
So that's your purchasing power. So what he was just saying, you know, like a dollar, it equals up to your goods, what you can purchase. It's always going to be that, right? Even though we know this dollar is not backed by anything, the currency, right? But that's how they equate what it's worth to the consumer, right?
This video, one American dollar is buying approximately $1.31 Australian, meaning an American dollar is worth slightly more than an Australian dollar. Now, there are a few things that could impact this relationship. Australian dollars could become more or less valuable, or American dollars could become more or less valuable. But even this idea of value could throw a few people off. I prefer to think of this abstract relationship in terms of goodness. If, for example, America falls into total chaos, which I know might be a hard reality to imagine, well, then the goodness of American dollars would fall. This would mean that Australian dollars would increase in relative value despite not necessarily being any more good themselves. 100 Australian dollars could still buy you the same amount of stuff that they did before America fell into chaos. It's just that now you can buy more American dollars with them. Now, moving on from this example that hits a little bit too close to home, let's consider another example. Imagine the relationship between the US dollar and the S&P 500 index. Again, we express this as an equation, with one of the units of the index being worth approximately 400 American dollars at the time of making this video. Since the beginning of 2020, this index, which is made up of the 500 largest companies in America, has undoubtedly become less good. Sure, there are a few companies that have benefited from working from home or delivering products to combat the pandemic, but most companies are struggling. Global supply chains have been slowed, making production more difficult, people are moving about less, therefore burning less fuel, and this is all to say nothing of companies directly involved in tourism or hospitality, which are now basically on government life support. It's fair to say that this collection of 500 companies is less good than it was 16 months ago. It's producing less, making less profits, and is far more reliant on government subsidies that may or may not continue into the foreseeable future. It would therefore stand to reason that, all other things being equal, this index would be exchangeable for fewer American dollars today than it was back at the beginning of 2020. But of course, that's not the case. In fact, it's actually exchangeable for 30% more dollars than it was at the beginning of 2020. So, either this equation is totally illogical, or the true value of dollars has fallen faster than the true value of this collection of companies. Now, of course, We normally see an appreciating stock market as a good thing, but again, that's because we measure value from the perspective of dollars. If the stock market appreciates in value, we naturally assume it's because the companies in that market are doing better for their investors. We don't assume it's because our dollar-based frame of reference has fallen. Think of it another way. If the stock market and house prices and wages increase by 50% in a year, we would all think that's a really good thing. But if an average grocery trip became 50% more expensive in that same year, alarm bells would start ringing. Now, of course, normally inflation is measured using one of these relationships between dollars and some kind of asset. But it's not any of the examples that we have seen thus far. Instead, it's a collection of goods and services called the Consumer Price Index. You can find a list of what's included in this index in your own country, and it does vary from country to country, broadly representing the spending habits of consumers in that nation. Now, normally the value of these items is highly correlated in the short to medium term with these other assets. For example, if real estate becomes more expensive, then rent is going to cost more, which means businesses are going to have to charge more to remain competitive, and those additional charges will be registered as increased prices in the Consumer Price Index.
So we seeing that happening right now. You're seeing real estate going up, we're gonna get into it more, but gas prices going up, oil prices going up, right? So that way, that's gonna push the food prices going up, right? So yeah, people are spending more with this fiat dollar, with this money that is imaginary that the government is giving to you, right? People are spending more. There's money being pushed into the system by money that's not really money, but the prices of things are going up. So we're spending more money to live. The cost of living, the purchasing power you're losing that, right?
But here is the thing. It hasn't. Inflation has remained comfortably below 3% for this entire money printing ordeal.
So right there, he's about to get into it. Like, there must be how is inflation staying at 3% when we know the prices of things are going up right now? Like at a exponentially rate right now.
This becomes even more bizarre when you consider one other factor that contributes to the price tag of things, their component parts. Iron ore has more than doubled in price in the past 12 months. The same is true of lumber. Crops like corn and soybeans that make up a good portion of the food that we eat are up more than 70%. But the Consumer Price Index, an index of things that are made from steel and wood and corn and soybeans, has barely moved. So what is going on here? Is there some creative or potentially fraudulent accounting going on? Or is America really too good for inflation? Now, so far, the two big forces to consider is that the US has made a lot more money while not making as much stuff. This means that there is naturally more money bidding for less stuff, which drives prices up. Simple supply and demand. So far, these price hikes have been exclusively in asset markets like stocks, cryptocurrencies, real estate, and raw materials. But despite the direct relationship between these markets and the markets for consumer goods and services, the Consumer Price Index, that actually acts as the gauge for what we report as inflation, has remained stubbornly low. Now, the bad news is that a lot of this is likely due simply to timing. At the moment, people are still relatively apprehensive about spending too much.
I had to touch on this real quick, Ben, but look at this setup. Look how you got Esau and Eve. The typical, this is what happens, right? Let's just go into the video. If you want to know, you know.
The savings rate in the US is at its highest level in recent history, which means that demand for investment assets has risen at the expense of regular consumption. Now, this won't last forever. In many instances, this fiscal responsibility is not really even a matter of choice, and more so a matter of being stuck at home and unable to spend up big on a holiday or a night out with friends. Once that becomes a possibility again, if history is anything to go by, you better believe that most people are going to spend through their COVID savings pretty quickly. In fact, in a lot of the examples we saw at the beginning of this video, hyperinflation started a year or two after the money printers were first switched on in earnest. Now, there still might be one saving grace for the American economy, and that is its currency status as the world reserve. Now, this term is thrown around a lot, and people will often use it in this debate to argue away the possibility that the US could end up like Venezuela, regardless of how much they let the money printer run. But more often than not, people don't fully understand what it means. Back 70 years ago, it really did mean something. Before 1973, American dollars were backed by gold, and the US had by far and away the largest gold reserves in the world. Other currencies around the world were in turn pegged to the US dollar, and hence the dollar was the foundation of all global finance. Today, it means something different. The US dollar is no longer backed by gold, and most global currencies are not pegged to the US dollar and are instead free-floating on the foreign exchange market. Today, it simply means that the US dollar is the most widely held foreign currency by other nations. China alone holds close to $3 trillion US dollars, and total global reserves top $7 trillion. What this effectively means is that the value of the US dollar is not only dependent on what can be purchased within its own domestic market, but also what it can purchase around the world. Let's say you want to buy a commercial order of smartphones from China and import those phones to your home country of Canada, let's say. Well, you wouldn't be able to pay for those phones in Canadian dollars. The Chinese company producing these phones would likely question what you want them to do with your weird maple dollars and request RMB instead. However, if you offered American dollars, they would likely be far more accommodating because American dollars are far more widely recognised. In fact, this sort of deal happens all the time because American dollars are easier to deal with than Chinese RMB. This is part of the way that China has been able to accumulate so much American money. So, the value of American money depends on the productive capacity of the planet more so than the productive capacity of the states. This does genuinely give American dollars some resistance to depreciation, but it's not limitless, and it also doesn't protect the United States from a situation where the entire global economy is impacted, like let's say a global pandemic. Now of course this isn't necessarily a foregone conclusion, but the writing is on the wall, so the next logical question you might be asking is, how do you prepare for this? Now the traditional answer to this would be to hold real assets, like precious metals, productive real estate, or even stocks in companies that wouldn't be too heavily impacted by domestic currency fluctuations. New age solutions might include cryptocurrencies, and it's difficult to say that this was bad advice in the past few months. But there is a more direct solution, shorting currency. Now you might ask, how do you do that? Typically, if you want to short something like a stock, you need to borrow that stock from your broker, then sell it instantly in the hope that the price falls so that you can buy the same stock at a lower price to give back to the broker you originally borrowed it from. But how would you do this with money? Well, it's simple. You borrow money. You then exchange that money for some kind of underlying asset, like let's say real estate or a stock portfolio, in the hope that the money becomes worth less, so...
Alright, we're gonna go into this, but if you get a chance, check out the meeting at Jekyll Island. That's what initially, when they decided to back money by gold and silver, they create the Federal Reserve. And you get a chance to check that out. It's the meeting at Jekyll Island. Let's go into this because he said something that was key. You know, the global, using the U.S. dollar is a global currency on the forex exchange. It's a global currency that is valuable around the globe. But as we know, the dollar is not worth anything, and China owns most of it, right? We're in debt with China, right? So China, they're exchanging their currency to a digital currency.
China wants to take over the US dollar. You see, almost 90% of international transactions are done in US dollar. Of course, the Chinese yuan isn't likely to challenge that in any significant way, but a digital currency could. Usually when we talk about cryptocurrencies, we think about how they empower individuals because they're independent of governments. But not this. China now has the world's first central bank digital currency in the world. And China's digital yuan is controlled by its central bank. Right now, it's doing massive tests across China, hoping to be the global leader in developing a CBDC, which stands for Central Bank Digital Currency. The Bank of Japan is also testing its own now too. The US government has also expressed interest over doing a digital US dollar. But hold up, isn't the point of digital currencies to break away from big government? Because this is actually giving China's government more power, control, and...
Nope. Like he's about to say, it's gonna usher in, you know, digital currency, worldwide currency, the one digital currency, a worldwide currency that's digital, which is gonna usher in the MOB. Right? Let's go.
But maybe that's also the point. China is getting in front of cryptocurrencies, also trying to get it powerful enough to be a global currency. And you know who else wanted to do this? Mark Zuckerberg. In 2019, he pitched...
Because that's the new, everybody's trying to get in front of it before it happens, right? So, you know, China's already, they implemented it. They already in the midst of doing it. They already got it going. They're already in the middle of it. We're not going to go too much of this video because we don't want to get no strike. But as you can see, just from this, you see that what China's doing. We owe China, and China is let's watch a little bit more so you
to
can
the
see
US government to create Facebook's digital currency called Libra. And they were all freaked out and basically said no. Zuckerberg predicted back then that countries could create their own digital currencies in an attempt to loosen America's power over the world financial order. But whether or not you support China doing its own digital currency, there is one thing that's hard to deny. China is the best positioned country to be trying this, simply because they have a centralized government and most of its population pays for everything through QR codes. In China, they pretty much always use their phone for payments on apps such as WeChat Pay or Alipay. And that's it. People have told me in China that they literally go weeks without eating.
So you can see right now in America, we go Apple Pay, Google Pay, right? We're all wearing a mask, right? We're basically China. You get what I'm saying? China owns most of your real estate. China owns most of, like Apostle Tahara's video, most of the Fortune 500 companies, right? China owns the US dollar, right? Basically we're in debt, right? So they're implementing a digital currency, and they want to be one of the countries, you know, global. They want to have global power. You know, that's what this is all about, right? Be one of those right? That's what they want. They want to take the global power away from America. We know that's not gonna happen. We know Yahweh Shah is gonna get rid of it, blow this place, and that's how that's gonna basically happen, right? They're not gonna get their power and become the next global power, right? It's gonna be it's gonna be World War III, right? And everybody's gonna have the missiles facing each other. They're gonna blow Babylon off the face of the earth, right? Especially Babylon. But it's gonna be World War III, right? That's what's basically going on. As you can see, we're leading up to that. This is all leading up to a one world currency, 2, the MOB, and 3, you know what's next, World War III, and boom, Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shah, and we being saved. We're right here, we're right at the cuff. So let's just get into some scriptures. We don't need to go into some more. That gave us a little information, a little background about that. All right. So let's just go into you know what? I was gonna take out my scriptures, but we'll go into the share with you. All right. Let's go here. Just some quick scriptures, but we got one key scripture we're gonna hit, and that's what it's all about. But we're gonna go to a few scriptures just to, you know, for some people out there that may come on, stop playing with me. Alright, this one to act up. We're gonna have to, you see, digital. They saying hating. We're gonna use the actual the actual scriptures, man. So if I can't get this up, it's acting up. Okay, there you go. No, there we go. All right, let's go to Proverbs 11:4. Riches profit not in the day of wrath, but righteousness deliver from death. Right? So all this fiat money, that's not going to save you. Right? Righteousness is delivered from death. And that's through Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, right? So we know that. All right, let's go. You know, we ain't gonna go. We'll go just hit you a few scriptures. That's what this all about. Oh, sorry, Salaki. You know what, go ahead. Then we're gonna end it with the main scripture. 1 Timothy 6:10. For the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through many sorrows, right? So for this fiat money, this imaginary money that most people, especially here in Babylon, is going after, it's not even worth nothing. It's not even worth it. It's no longer worth it. They just pumping money into the system, right? It's not worth. It's not backed by anything. It's not they have erred from the faith because of it. It's the root of all evil, right? Yes, money can be a defense, right? And we use money, right? But we don't love money, right? We know it's just something that we use. We don't abuse it, right? Like they say, like, make money, don't make money make you. You know what I'm saying? Right? So that's all, man. Let's because we know we're heading into a different climate right now. We're going into, you know, this is prophecy right now. Everything is lined up for prophecy, right? Let's go to and we're gonna just hit this up. Salakia. New Testament, James. James. We go to James 5:1. Go to now, ye rich men, weep and howl for your miseries that should come upon you. So the rich men, we're talking about the elite. We're not talking about the everyday, the people we think that's rich. You know, like the Oprahs, and you know, these people are put in power. Like, you know, like they were saying Jay-Z. You know, all these people like Kanye West. These people like this. You see what happened to Bill Cosby, right? He had money, and what happened? Now he's in jail cell doing time. These people control their money. We talking about the elite, the leader of the elite, right? Go to like the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Bilderbergs, right? Go to now, ye rich men, weep and howl for your miseries that shall come upon you. Your riches are corrupted, and your garments are moth-eaten. These people, and you know, your gold and silver is cankered, and rust of them shall be a witness against you, and shall eat your flesh as it were fire. Ye have heaped treasure together for the last days. They think this money, this is going to save them. You got Mark Zuckerberg talking about he wanted to get in front of, he wanted to have want to be one of the global, have a global digital currency, right? These people, they seriously think that this is going to save them, right? But you know, we can go that whole we can go further down, but we just gonna get right into it, right? And right into it. Let's go to Revelations 13. We're going to start at 15. Revelations 13 and 15. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak, and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast shall be killed. And the beast is the beast system. It's not Caesar Borgia. You know what I'm saying? The beast system is the EU and NATO, right? And America is the prominent figure in that beast system, right? In that beast system, that's why it's gonna go down. That's why those same countries in the EU and the NATO is gonna bring America down. They're gonna be part of bringing America down, right? But let's bring it back. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak, and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast shall be killed. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, right? So how they gonna receive that mark? Right? But this is what's gonna happen, and that no man might buy or sell, save he had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name, right? So we're not talking about some name tattooed on them, right? On their forehead, on a Caesar Borgia tattooed on what you people call Jesus Christ, tattooed on him. Nah, that's not what it is. It's gonna be the RFID microchip, right? A cutting into your, etched out into your skin, right? Charagma, right? Into your skin. That's what's gonna happen. That's the mark of the beast. The RFID microchip, right? A one world currency where you cannot buy or sell. You know, he causes all small and great, rich and poor, free and born to receive a mark in their right hand, on their foreheads, right? And that no man might buy or sell save he had that mark, right? You see what's going on in China. They just walking around, they using the QR codes through their phone. They say they leave their wallet at home. That's eventually, it's already happening, you know, it's already here, but it's gonna be implemented, and it's gonna be mandatory to buy or sell. You know, so you want to go into the store, and that's why you got the prelude with the baby sword right now with the vaccination, because that's the prelude. The next step is the RFID microchip, right? That's why they're collapsing the currency, they're collapsing the economy right now, right? It's all a set. The stage is being set up, right? Everything's in place. Prophecy. This is prophecy. Everything's in place. We're living in it right now. We're living in the last days, right? Let's bring it back. 16. And he causeth all, both small and great. So no matter who you are, small and great, rich and poor, free and born, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. You got the boy Elon Musk working on monkeys, putting chips in monkeys' heads. That's why even the beast is crying out. Right? Even the beasts of the earth is crying out because of these people, what they do. Just to test on the animals. But it's all getting ready to do what? To put that in you, Jacob. That's mainly, again, I always say Jacob, because who cares about everybody else? The movie's about Esau and Jacob. And Esau's looking to take you out, Jacob, because he's still mad because he gave up his birthright to us. You know? And it was ultimately through Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, he wasn't going to get it. Right? But that's what happened. He's still ultimately pissed off. And he's here to deceive you, the devil, deceiver. He's the Satan, the adversary, right? And that no man should buy or sell. That's what's going on. When you see all that, that's coming down to the pipeline. Everybody out here want to get their mirth. But you see what's going on. You just had the cyber attack. Gas prices about to raise, right? You know, food's going to be a famine of food, right? This is to get you right to where they need you. Right where they need you. So they can put that RFID microchip in you. Alright? So I ain't gonna spend no more time on this. I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'Shem, Yahushua, Ba'Shem, Rakal Kadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders and great millstone that teach and rule well with sincerity, honesty, and integrity. And the brothers that labor in this truth with those same attributes, and also the brothers and the very, very few sisters that listen in with those same attributes.